Hello, Master Brokers. I'd like to welcome all longtime members, new members, Gold Coast MBF members, and our esteemed panelists to this meeting. This is our second MBF virtual meeting, and I want to thank all of you for the overwhelmingly positive feedback to the first we had back in April. We'll continue to do these virtually for the time being, while remaining hopeful for a return to actual face-to-face meetings as soon as it's safe to do so. I'm pleased to think the opening up a bit in our region to read reports of upticks in our respective markets return to normal. That being said, we must continue to carefully follow all recommended guidelines on limited gatherings, mask wearing, hand washing, social distancing, etc. We must also be mindful that not all industries will bounce back as quickly as real estate, and that thousands of our neighbors are out of work, food, uncertain, and need of help. Their challenges and the ways we can help them during this difficult time are the focal points of today's discussion, and we look forward to hearing from our panelists on these important issues in just a moment. For the purposes of this meeting, we recommend you use the speaker view option. If you prefer the gallery view, you may want to pin the panelists and moderator. Please note that everyone will be muted except the panelists and I, but we'll have the opportunity to submit questions via Zoom's chat feature. Please remain in the meeting once the discussion is completed for a few quick housekeeping notes. At this time, I'd like to introduce our amazing panelists, all of whom have made this difficult past a few months a little bit easier for those in need. Starting with Maria Alonso. Maria was named President and CEO of United Way of Miami-Dade in August 2017 after a 22-year career with Bank of America. She's responsible for engaging the passion and expertise of individuals, corporate and community partners in support of United Way's mission of building community by helping people care for one another. Working alongside a team of nearly 200 professionals, she guides the strategic direction, operations, and finances of the largest private funder of health and human services in Miami-Dade County. Prior to joining United Way, Maria served on the United Way board, guiding its programmatic investments in education, financial stability, and health. Maria has a rich history of community leadership, having chaired and served on the boards of several South Florida institutions. Maria, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Jeff.
As executive,
good to be with you.
Thank you for being with us. As Executive VP of Feeding South Florida, Sari Vatsky, I hope I'm saying that properly, is responsible for strategic development and execution, as well as the external aspects of the organization, including fundraising and programs. Prior to joining in 2011, she served as the Florida Regional Manager for Share Our Strength, a Washington, D.C.-based organization working to end childhood hunger in the United States. Sari's responsibility at Share One Strength include fundraising and events, volunteer recruitment and development, and advocacy community building. During her tenure with Feeding South Florida, she was named Top Workplace Professional by the Sun Sentinel in 2016 and received a 40 Under 40 award by the South Florida Business Journal in 2014. Sari also sits on Feeding America's Network Fundraising Services Advisory Council. Sari, welcome to the panel.
Thank you.
And finally, we're pleased to be joined by our fellow MBF broker, board member Andres Sacion of the Miami Real Estate Group. Andres has been at the forefront of the South Florida real estate market for over 2 decades and currently oversees more than 20 agents from his 2 offices on Brickell, specializing in all aspects of high-rise development sales, embryonic stage to completion. His expertise runs the gamut. It ranges from consulting on programming of units, partnerships and pricing of developments, to build sales teams, training, and management. From 2009 to 2016, Andres served as VP of Development Sales for Fortune International Group, where he's involved in the sale of more than 39 developments, surpassing the $10 billion mark. And this is why he can afford a very fancy mask. We've asked Andres to participate because of a self-started program to support people in need, which he'll outline during the discussion. Andres, thanks for joining us. Okay, let's get started. Thank you all for what you've done and continue to do on behalf of our community. Our first question, please tell us, and we'll start with Maria. Please tell us about your organization, how it supports the community under normal conditions, and what you've done to address increased needs during the pandemic.
Sure, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you again for having me today. There is a short PowerPoint that'll guide, and I can refer to while we go through some of these questions. And Jason, if you wouldn't mind going to page 1. But in a nutshell, United Way of Miami-Dade has been serving the needs in our community for the last 96 years. We are part of a global network of over 1,400 United Ways, 1,100 of them in the United States, and we're all geographically focused. And while we and our work is focused on Miami-Dade County, for those brokers that are in Broward and Palm Beach, we obviously have peer organizations that cover Broward and Palm Beach respectively. As a network, we've been around for over 130 years, and like I said, our focus is Miami-Dade County. Next slide, please. Under normal circumstances, our focus is on elevating the quality of life of all residents in Miami-Dade County. One slide before that. And our work is specifically focused on education, financial stability, and health, which we feel are the foundation of economic equity, quite frankly, and to create pathways to prosperity, and again, to have a good quality of life for all. Before the pandemic, Miami-Dade County, I think, and you all know all too well, is really a tale of two cities. And there is incredible wealth, as you all specifically know, with many of the properties that I'm sure you've represented and sold during your career. But then we also have the poorest, or one of the poorest urban cores in the nation. And so I often talk about it as that tale of two cities. And so before the pandemic, next slide, Jason, we already had over 50% of all of our households in Miami-Dade County that were struggling. They were living paycheck to paycheck, and they were struggling to cover the basics of a shelter, a roof over their families' heads, food on the table, access to health care, access to child care, transportation, and what we all know is a requirement in today's work environment, which is technology. And so as we look at the pandemic, it has only exacerbated what was a community where the majority was already struggling to make ends meet. On any given night before the pandemic, 100,000 children in our community were going to bed hungry, and they were reliant on their school meals for their #1 source of nutrition and food. 1 in 7 seniors in our community on a daily basis had to make a decision whether they were going to pay for their rent, for their food, or for their medication. And so we already were in a place of economic instability bordering on chaos. We know that in this community, and Broward and Palm Beach are not very different, but certainly Miami is the poster child, the cost of living in Miami-Dade County outweighs the wages, or the average wages. And when many in our community work in hospitality and other service sector jobs, we know that those wages just can't keep up with the increase and the continuing increase in the cost of living. Next slide, please. Or Jeff, do you want to stop there, or do you want me to go into the pandemic as well?
No, you can go into the pandemic. Okay. What has changed in what you're doing in Dade County since the beginning of the pandemic?
So absolutely, the needs have been exacerbated, as I was saying, and so we were already in quite a state before the pandemic, and the pandemic only made it worse. We've had a lot of furloughs, obviously, with an industry or with an industry focus in services, but then even hospitality and tourism on the front line of impacts, with reduced hours for non-essential businesses, with furloughs, with layoffs. And so it's only exacerbated the needs of those working families that we serve on every single day. So we, like in any other disaster, which to date have really been focused on natural disasters such as hurricanes, but this one obviously is very different in that it is a health crisis. However, it has brought upon sustained economic crisis in our community. We established a fund We've raised over $3.5 million, and as of Monday, we've been able to assist and provide emergency assistance to individuals, and actually over 3,200 individuals in our community. That has been emergency assistance to pay for rent, to pay for mortgages, to pay for food, to pay for medication. As part of that pandemic fund, we also created a small subset of the fund to focus on small micro businesses. So sole proprietorships with less than 10 employees that would otherwise not have access to the PPP or any of the small business loans. And these are grants. And to date, we've helped 40 small businesses, providing an average of about $2,300. And most of those funds have gone to pay for rent, and along with it, provide technical assistance to ensure that the businesses have a sustainability plan and they'll be able to, sustain their jobs and their businesses. We also established, please keep moving, a resource center for our community and our website with links to all types of available assistance, whether they be through federal or state government, also through CareerSource South Florida, FIU, lots of different resources available for individuals and small businesses in our community. And we've also had a call for volunteers. Quite frankly, that is part of our role. We are part of the emergency operations management team for Miami-Dade County, and as such, one of our roles is to engage volunteers in helping us. And so we are part of the weekly distribution with Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and twice a week we provide the volunteers and even our staff to help with those distributions. We have also provided over 10,000 meals to the elderly before it was centralized with Miami-Dade County. And we've helped over 1,700 older adults in our community. We also serve low to moderate income families that have toddlers in our early Head Start programs. There's about 650 families total. But for our assistance with diapers and formula, which you may remember or may know, are quite expensive, they wouldn't have the funds to and while they're not working to pay for those basic needs. And so we've had 4 distributions to date, and our schools just opened this past Monday. We've also done distributions for the homeless with PPE, right? Hand sanitizers and masks and water and food and soap and hygiene kits. So, our mission comes to life at a time of disaster, but the reality is that we do live in a disaster, an economic disaster, and so many families one disaster away from economic instability, that our mission is, we live our mission every day, but in times of crisis, it's important.
Right. Maria, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry. Tell us about how your organization supports the community under normal conditions and what you've done to address the increased needs during the pandemic.
Sure. So our PowerPoint is mostly pictures. We found those to be the most impactful. So, thank you, Maria, first of all, for everything that you do in the community and that your organization does. When you were with Bank of America, for those that may not know, we've had the pleasure of working very closely with Maria. So really appreciative for your continued friendship. So thank you, Maria, for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Feeding South Florida is part of the Feeding America network of food banks. We are one of 200 throughout the United States. And we are a separate 501c3 focused here locally exclusively on Palm Beach, Broward, Miami-Dade, and Monroe counties. We are the largest provider of emergency food assistance in every county we serve. We are responsible for about 25% of the state's food insecure population. Prior to the COVID pandemic, we were serving about 706,000 individuals. As Maria said, 1 in 5 children go to bed hungry in South Florida, and in Miami-Dade County, that's about 107,000. And Miami-Dade County has about 255,000 people that are food insecure, meaning they don't know where their next meal is coming from. And when we talk about hunger versus food insecurity, a lot of times people always ask us, what's the difference? And we really explain it that hungry is a temporary state of being. So you and I skip breakfast. We know that probably we can go do something about it by lunchtime. Whereas food insecurity is not having the resources or the ability to be able to know where you're getting your next meal. And so, as Maria said, South Florida is a tale of two cities. We are fortunate to have some of the wealthiest zip codes, and unfortunately, we have some of the country's poorest zip codes. And so really our mission is to threefold: provide immediate access to nutritious food, lead hunger and poverty advocacy efforts, and transform lives through innovative programming and education. So we don't just believe in feeding the line, we also believe in trying to prevent the line and end it. Through job training, workforce development, we are getting ready to launch our CDLA training program, our warehouse forklift certification, and we are building our 5,000 square foot commercial kitchen that will be able to produce up to 10,000 meals a day. So as a food bank, our primary function is to, as I said, provide immediate access to nutritious food. Prior to the COVID pandemic, last fiscal year, we distributed about 62 million pounds of food. And just as of Monday, this fiscal year, we have about 3 weeks left. We've already distributed over 100 million pounds of food. So we are on pace to approximately double our output. The photos you see on the screen are photos of the different distributions that we've had to do. So typically we work with a network of about 300 nonprofit partner agencies, and we have our direct service programs like the school pantry program. We have a wonderful relationship with Miami-Dade County School District Superintendent Carvalho. We've had school pantry programs there in partnership with the Marlins, but obviously with school closures, we've had to shift our model. And so with about 40% of our partner agency network closed, Feeding South Florida has had to stand up additional distributions, about 40 per week, the drive-through distributions. Unfortunately, many of you have probably had your traffic patterns interrupted as a result of them, if you've seen the long lines, unfortunately. We are serving approximately 800 to 1,500 people per distribution. And so doing that kind of model is new for us, but with our agencies closed and them not necessarily having the ability to practice social distancing or handle the drive-through distributions, we've been coordinating with the Parks and Rec Department, with law enforcement, to make sure that there's traffic control and flow. So I know I've shared a lot of numbers, but just to put it in perspective, we are seeing, again, as I said, prior to the pandemic, we were serving about 706,000 people. And in the past 3 months, we've served about 1.2 million people. Just in Miami-Dade County alone, we've served about 400,000 individuals, and we've been able to do direct delivery through our Amazon Flex program. We've delivered over 2,000 individual family meal boxes to homebound seniors, older adults, as well as kids that may not have been able to access the grab and go meal sites. So in Miami-Dade, the same 3 months last year at this time, from March 9th to May 31st, we distributed about 4 million pounds of food, and year to date, we've distributed 9.8 million pounds of food. Wow. So more than double, unfortunately, and we don't foresee this outlook changing. So as Maria mentioned, prior to this, there was a great need in the community. And we are, although things are opening back up, we are really seeing similar trends to the 2008 recession level. And people have unfortunately gone through whatever savings they might have had. They've maxed out their credit cards. And many businesses have not opened. Maybe they've scaled, half the time. At these distributions, we've been able to survey our families and know how many people are in the household. We've also surveyed whether or not they were employed prior to needing to receive assistance. And most of the people in line do come from the hospitality or the retail industry. And as we know all too well, particularly in Miami-Dade County, most people can't afford to live where they work. So with a high tourism and hospitality industry, our economy was hit particularly hard. As the 8th largest metropolitan area in the United States, the need for our services is greater than ever. We are fortunate to live in produce-rich producing counties. And so while there was a glut of produce at the time, in South Florida, the growing season really only lasts from October through the end of May. So every year we go into the summer months needing additional support, having a lower supply of food. But right now with the CARES Act, the second round, there's something known as the CFAP, the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program. And so we've been working with distributors to bring on an additional 140 full tractor trailer loads of product. And just to put that in perspective, you see the pictures of our tractor trailers, and that's 18 of those lined up full, or I'm sorry, that's 18 wheelers of those lined up. So all of that to say that we've had to scale our operations. We are now working out of 2 additional warehouses. Prior to this, we had 20 vehicles in our fleet. We've had to bring on an additional 11. And with that comes additional drivers, fuel, insurance, and we've had to purchase food, unfortunately. So our cost of operating went from about $145,000 a week to about $400,000 a week. And again, that does include purchased food of non-perishable, shelf-stable product. That's been hard to come by. I know I've shared a lot, so I'll pause there. And just kind of leaving you with the idea that, as we go into hurricane season, we're already there. Feeding South Florida is the food and water lead for Miami-Dade County after Hurricane Irma. In fact, because of our relationship with the United Way of Miami-Dade, we were able to have a seat at the table. We worked very closely with them after Hurricane Irma during the government shutdown. So hopefully the community knows that should shelters need support, you're in good hands. We are there helping coordinate those efforts, and we are a staging site for FEMA and have a seat at the state EOC as well.
Thank you, Sarah. Very impressive. Andres, we'd like to hear about what you're doing for South Florida. Jason, you want to play something for Andres, WSVN clip?
I could I talk over it, Jason? Maybe we could just play it without the sound, and I could talk over it.
Jason?
Yeah, I can see if I can play without the sound. I'm not sure if I can control that, but let's see what happens. It's only about 1:40. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, you can mute it. Perfect. So, so this is an example. First, I want to say that congrats to Feeding South Florida for everything you're doing and the United Way, because what you guys do for our community is absolutely amazing. And this video clip right here is the reason why everything that I'm doing started. And it's all because of Feeding South Florida. So as you can see here, I'm riding on my bike and I'm videotaping people in line. That's the Feeding South Florida distribution at the W Hotel in South Beach. And I was filming it. When I was filming it, somebody in California saw it. And this is such a cool story. This guy was about to buy a $500 pair of Nike sneakers. And he was watching the news as he was about to make the purchase of the sneakers online. And he said, I'm sorry, he wasn't watching, he was watching my feed while he was looking at buying these sneakers. And he said, I can't possibly buy these $500 pair of sneakers when I'm seeing this need going on in Miami. So the guy, instead of buying his $500 pair of sneakers, he sends me a message on Instagram from that video that you just saw from Feeding South Florida. He says, Andres, can you help families with these $500? And I said, man, of course I can. So basically, I took those $500 and I called Presidente Supermarket that same day. I mean, that video was shot at 8 o'clock in the morning. The guy reached out to me at noon. At 1 o'clock, I reached out to Presidente and asked him, hey, can you match funds if I bring you funds so we could help different families at checkout when they're about to pay for the groceries. And they said, yeah, we'll match you dollar for dollar for whatever you bring. That same day, I went to Presidente Supermarket with the $500, and I started buying groceries for people with the matching. So now I had 1,000. And then another friend of mine called me that day and to figure out what I was doing. I FaceTimed him and I showed him what I was doing. He sent me $1,000. So now I had $3,000. And with those $3,000, I started buying the groceries for families in need that were ready, to check out. And you ask, well, how do you know these families are in need? Because at Presidente Supermarket in Alapara, you see these people opening up Ziploc bags and counting pennies to pay for their groceries. And when you show up and you say, hey, can I, or you see them putting food aside because the numbers don't match and they don't have enough money to cover. And they're staring at the screen, profusely to make sure, and they're sweating to make sure it's going to be able to match to the funds that they have in their pocket. So I basically spent 4 hours there talking to those families and surprising them, saying, hey, you know what, put your money away. You don't have to worry about it. And I'm going to cover the cost. And that some other people saw it on social media. They sent it to Channel 7. And that is how my whole entire catapulting happened with my foundation to do what I'm doing right now. Prior to COVID, for the last 10 years, my foundation has been basically supporting St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, donated about $250,000 to St. Jude, and helping out local organizations like the Overtown Youth Center and Amigos for Kids. But what this has done has been at another level. That donation that happened because of Feeding South Florida was $500, then it became $1,000, and then it became $2,000, then it became $3,000. And I have somebody who, another special person that saw what I was doing on social media as well. And this is the power of social media, because sometimes people say, you know what, don't post so much on social media, the stuff that you're doing. But if you don't post it, people don't know the need, and people don't know how they could help, and people don't know how they could donate. And due to posting, I've raised over $100,000 from people who wanted to help. And that money doesn't go to any admin costs, any fees, any overhead. It goes 100% to the people that we're helping, and which is awesome. And so I've been able to do that to the supermarkets for the last 7 weeks. In addition to that, we have constantly doing events that people are reaching out to me, Univision, Telemundo, Channel 7, different organizations. As an example, one organization reached out to me yesterday on Monday, and they were like, we need fuel for families in Homestead. We have over 50 families in Homestead that they don't have enough money to buy fuel. They have, we're providing them with food, but they ask if you could do what you did at the supermarket, but at a gas station. And so instead, I sent a fueling truck to the neighborhood, and we fueled all the 50 families. And we said, if you need more, let me know, and we'll be there next week and we'll fuel some more. I'm doing the same thing now with families in Overtown Youth Center. Today, this is a perfect example. We did a buyout of the restaurant in Mr. Owen's here in Wynwood. And everybody that's walking in here behind me are all families invited from Overtown Youth Center. The restaurant is closed for the next hour until 7. And so everybody that comes in here is just getting free pizzas for them and their families. So things like this is what my organization has been doing. And the cool thing is that I love to collaborate with people. So if anybody wants to be involved and be hands-on and see where the money is going, you can do it with me, which is the beautiful part about it. And it's so awesome. So again, thank you to the United Way, and thank you to Feeding South Florida, because again, Feeding South Florida's collaboration with Commissioner Richardson in Miami Beach, which created that distribution for so many residents that came from all over the place, because the distribution starts at 9 o'clock in the morning in Miami Beach, and people are in line since 2:30 in the morning in their car waiting in order to be able to get the food. And that's crazy. They just pull up there, they wake up, they pull up there, they put the car in park, and they go back to sleep until it's their time to go up to the line. And so the need is real, and it has slowed down a bit because you have people going back to work, but it's not going to go away anytime soon. And we're here to help. So that's sort of my story.
Great.
Any questions, Jason?
Well, let's continue. Thank you, Andres. You're doing an incredible job. So Andres, you were saying that it's slowing down, that less people are showing up for food because people are going back to work. Sorry, do you agree that things are getting better, or do you think they'll be as bad for a while?
We're not seeing that, so it's great to hear that some folks are seeing that. In fact, as some of our agencies are reopening and coming back online, that's more outlets that we're looking to provide food to. And with the summer months, and again, people staying home and having to choose between daycare and their jobs, it's an increased issue. It always is over the summer, and so we have not seen it decline. Thankfully, we've been able to open additional distribution sites, so the lines aren't as long. We've refined our process. And as fast as funds are coming in, they're going out. And so we've been fortunate to receive the support of the community in partnership with, the Miami Heat and WSVN. For every dollar donated to us, we can provide 7 meals. We have a 98.7% efficiency rating. So we are definitely in need of food assistance. We're a 4-star rated organization by Charity Navigator. So as we continue to need, monetary assistance, again, we are looking at needing non-perishable items and continuing at this increased level. As I shared, we have not seen, we've seen kind of a parallel track from the 2008 numbers and with the recession, and we have not seen it slow down. In fact, I think we're adding another distribution in Miami Beach with Commissioner Richardson. So we're in this for the long haul. We do this 365 days a year. And we've been around for 40 years, and it's our 40th anniversary in February 2021. And so we will continue to be here. I do kind of want to just, take a moment and highlight the fact that I guess if there's any positive to this, it's that it is shedding a light on what our families have gone through prior to the pandemic. It has raised awareness about the panic and the fear that families face when they're out of a job and they don't know where their next meal is coming from. And so I think if nothing else, it really has brought to light that there is a disparity in our community. And prior to this, about 80% of Americans were one emergency away from needing the support of a food bank. So whether it was a medical emergency, car breaking down, whatever the case, many people are paycheck to paycheck. And so, not having received employment, for about 3 months, that has a long lasting effect that doesn't go away just because the lights are turned back on, so to speak.
So my comment,
very much in need, and so are our families.
My comment actually came from the fact that on Saturday morning, when I was out there about 8 o'clock in the morning for the food distribution line in Miami Beach, the line stopped at about 15th Street. The Saturday prior, the line was at to 5th Street. So at around the same time. It doesn't necessarily mean, and it could be that the people are just waking up later to get on the food line. But the line was definitely shorter, but it doesn't mean that they didn't distribute the same amount of food because people continue to show up. So the second thing that I also wanted to bring up is that somebody like me is doing all this stuff, and everybody could do their own efforts in whatever level you want to do it. But I think it's important that all of us try to pay it forward, however it is possible, whether it's with money, your time, or your sweat equity. The majority of the stuff that I'm doing is sweat equity. I'm helping people use their money to be able to pay it forward. It takes time. I'm at a supermarket every Saturday for 4 hours. I'm here right now for 2 hours and then going to another shelter for another hour. So it is sweat equity involved. And if you want, so the people who either don't want to put in the money but want to put in sweat equity, you can. And whoever wants to put in the money, you can. To all these organizations, to United Way, to Feeding South Florida. So I encourage you and also your kids, get your kids involved. Have them be aware of what's going on. Have them do their own little either fundraising or sweat equity with these organizations, because it helps it to pay it forward and helps them to integrate into what they should be doing to pay it forward, to be living in this beautiful world that we call Earth.
Well, and if I may just jump in, it allows them, you're raising their consciousness, right, to maybe what is not their reality, but is the reality for far too many in our community. I mean, when you're talking about 54% of all of our households really struggling, living paycheck to paycheck, they don't have the money to save for a vacation,
rainy
let
day.
alone for their kids' education, empowerment tools for a better future. And so an unexpected expense, such as, you know, as Sari was saying, you know, a battery, they need a battery. Well, they don't have the money for that. So what does that entail? What does that in turn do for their economic situation as a family? Volunteerism, you know, a lot of people can't be volunteering in person right now. They may have prior conditions, they may have real health concerns, and we understand that, but there are virtual volunteer opportunities. If you want to be in the front line, you want to be a part of these food distributions or distributing PPE to the homeless, or helping with diaper distributions for low-income families that need that kind of assistance, you can. But if you still want to be able to give of your time, right? So you could write a message of hope and gratitude for all those people that have allowed our community and our economy to move forward for the past 2.5 months. It could be to a medical professional, it could be to the people that deliver our mail, it could be to the grocery clerk at Publix or Presidente that have kept those aisles stocked up so that the rest of us can continue to live in our modified new normal, but continue to move forward. So there's just so many ways in which you can engage and give of your talent, of your treasure, certainly of your time, and our community really needs it. The way I think about it, frankly, is that we're all stakeholders, and that if our community, if these working families can't survive, it's not good for any of us or any of our businesses, whether, you know, like all of you are brokers, but it doesn't matter what business. We won't have people to do business with. So it's self-enlightened interest, and I just love the fact that you wanted to talk about this, right? To try to engage the hearts and minds of your peers.
Yes, thank you. So how can we help your respective organizations? Let's start with Sari. How do we help your respective organizations?
Sure. So, you know, Andres and Maria, you know, brought up a really good point, is that, you know, whether it's sweat equity, you know, not everyone's in a position to donate financially. And, you know, maybe people aren't able to come out. So the great thing is that anyone can get involved with, you know, hunger relief. And so we do have in-person volunteer opportunities. We typically rely on the support of about 40,000 volunteers annually. And we usually are able to have about 200 people per day per shift. And so in light of social distancing protocols, we've had to reduce that, but we are able to open back up. And we are following CDC guidelines with, you know, masks required, self-declaration about travel, health. We have gloves and hand sanitizers. So, you know, definitely have volunteer opportunities at our warehouse as well as in the community, and our partner agencies need support. People can volunteer, or I'm sorry, you know, donate, again, monetarily. For every $1 donated, we can provide 7 meals. And advocacy is huge. So, you know, you mentioned kids, and we have a youth ambassador program. We did a social media post highlighting some of the innovative things that kids have done. You know, we had someone that's a violinist and went around the community playing songs for people, and they donated to him. And, you know, he turned around and donated that. We have one child who's a baker, and he sold, you know, a baker's dozen cupcakes, you know, for $50 and donated that. So kids can really get involved, and so can anyone. And to Maria's point, there's, you know, remote volunteer opportunities. All the vouchers that we're collecting from these distributions, the data has to be entered into a system, and so people can do that remotely. So there's definitely ways that people can support, and especially you all in your networks, and raising awareness about the issue. During the summer months, we are hit particularly hard in needing, you know, support. So we will continue to rely on that. And then come September is Hunger Action Month, where everyone goes orange. So just like October is breast cancer awareness, and everyone goes pink, September is the Hunger Relief Month, and everyone goes orange. So there's fun ways to get involved for that. People can visit our website, feedingsouthflorida.org, and they can find more information there about how to help. So as Maria said, you know, your treasure, your talent, we like to call it the holy trifecta: food, funds, and friends. So donate, volunteer, advocate.
Thank you. Andres, you said that people can come and help you.
100%. And also, you know, another great way to help is to fuel me with people that are in need. If you know of families that are in need, that they could that they need groceries, that they need help with gas, that they need any type of help, reach out to me because I could most likely help them. The mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez, sends me about 3 text messages a day of people that text him. He screenshots it and sends it to me and says, Andres, help him out, help him out, help him out. And I do it all the time. So I'm saying, and you also want to be informed because there's a lot of resources right now that are available for many people in need from the county as well as these organizations. If somebody's over 60 years old and they need food, all they have to do is call 311 and they're going to get food delivered to their house immediately for free. If they have,
but they don't know that. People
they don't know that. But if we all know that, and when you hear it and you post it and you share it, you're educating other people and you're fueling them with information. Many times people call me and I ask them, how old are you? They're like, oh, we're 65. I'm like, well, call 311 and they'll deliver food to your house. When you're done calling them, after you confirm, please call me back to make sure that you got through and that you're okay. And they call me back and they thank me. They're like, oh my God, we didn't know that. And they spend weeks without being able to have food because they didn't know that they could just call 311.
Is this Dade County, Tri-County, Miami-Dade County?
Miami-Dade County has it. I'm sure the other counties as well have it, but same thing with the school system. People, you know, if you have kids in the school system, they're going to give them food for the whole entire week. And not only for them, but for their parents as well. So if you have a child in the school system, they're going to get food and their parents are going to get food if they go and pick it up. So there's a lot of ways to be able to help from the county and the cities. And so I try to help out the gaps, right? I try to help out if somebody needs diapers. Like I know that right now the United Way is providing as well, which is great. But then we go and do distributions and we make sure that there's diapers for the kids, that there's food, and we ask what they need and if they have any dietary restrictions, and we try to get it for them as well. So there's 2 ways that you can help. Number 1 is fuel me and these other organizations with people that need help. Educate yourself so that you could educate others on how they can help themselves with the organizations and the programs that already exist with the county. And the other thing is to share on your social media, like share stuff of the United Way, share stuff of Feeding South Florida. On my social media, on my Instagram, I post every single day almost of the Feeding South Florida distributions of Miami Beach and North Beach. I post what's going on in Miami. So if you take that data and you take that information and you fuel it and you pass it on, it's like a chain email, but it's a positive chain email that when somebody else sees it, they're like, oh my God, I know somebody who might need it. And they send it over. And just because you make that post, somebody else is going to get fed because somebody else saw it and then they shared it with somebody else and they told somebody else. So, you know, pass on that good information because that data is very useful for many people. And you never know who you're going to affect indirectly by posting something like that.
Thank you, Andres. Maria, how do we help your organization?
No, Jeff, so I want everybody to also know, as Andres was saying, the older adults call 311. Everyone else call 211, okay? 211 is an invaluable resource that is funded by United Way and others. It's operated by the Jewish Community Services of South Florida in Miami-Dade County, but Broward County has a 211, Palm Beach County has a 211. And it is a centralized repository, right, for any type of assistance, and they will get you to the right place, whether that be a county, whether that be United Way, whether that be Feeding South Florida, wherever your need is, they are an invaluable resource for all of us as stakeholders in our communities. Look, I just say, from a volunteer perspective, we just launched earlier this year, perfect timing, a new website called volunteermiami.org. And it's a community hub. It's not just United Way.
You're frozen on my screen, okay.
I'm sorry?
You were frozen there for a minute.
Oh, okay, am I back?
You're back.
volunteermiami.org, and it's a community hub for all nonprofits to post their needs for volunteers in it. So it has opportunities with United Way, but it has opportunities with other nonprofits and agencies across Miami-Dade County. So that's a resource. As I said, we created a resource center that is specific to the pandemic, but guess what? We have another resource center in our website also for hurricanes. It's hurricane season. That's the last thing that we need at this time, but we must be prepared. And so part of our mission is to really make these resources available and known in our community. So please visit unitedwaymiami.org. And of course, if you can donate, we need the financial support as well so that we can continue the work that we do, that I think long-term speaks to that policy piece that Sari was speaking about, because that is a point of focus for United Way as well. And it's 100% focused on working families and what can we do to help them and change their prospects for the future so that we're not creating the same, right? And I think that as a community, we have some tough conversations to have. We need to really be looking at how do we diversify our industries so that we do increase the wages in our community that is required by the high cost of living. So that's one, and working together and collaborating with the Beacon Council, with the Chambers of Commerce in order to do that. And so, advocacy is something that you can do from your home. You can absolutely let your elected officials how you feel and give ideas. We're all searching for ideas to make our communities better for all of us. And I think that translates into higher quality of life and also better places in which to do business. It should be a win-win.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions from the audience? Jason, did you want to add something?
Farid had a question for Andres. He wanted to know if Andres will keep on doing this after the pandemic. Will the charity take on a different form after the pandemic?
Andres? Andres is muted. There he is.
Shoot.
Yeah, Andres, Farid had a question. He wanted to know if you'll keep on doing this after the pandemic, and would the charity take on a different form after the pandemic?
So it has taken on a different form, and it's not going to stop. So the answer is yes, and I'll continue to do this. I mean, this has been amazing for me. It's actually been a blessing because all the other organizations that I've been a part of and all the stuff that I've been doing, the majority of the time is cutting the checks. And the same thing with Amigos for Kids and the Overtown Youth Center that I've been on the board of for 20 years. You know, I'm on the board and I go to board meetings and I cut checks and I'm involved at events, right? So we do the toy drive event and I'm there and it's great. And we do an after school give back of book bags and we do it. But this is different. This is spending hours and hours and hours with people, you know, and getting that feedback and being involved, which is amazing. I don't think I'll ever stop. I think that this is so gratifying to see the direct impact that you're helping families in a different way, that it's not the same as I was doing before. And I love it. And it's mutually beneficial for the people as it is for me as well. I love to help, and I don't think that I'm going to stop for sure.
Okay. Thank you, Andres. Any other questions? Okay. Jason, can we finish it up?
You're the moderator. It's your call, Jeff.
Maria, did you want to add something? I see your beautiful face.
No, but it seems that my dog did.
Your dog did.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I put mine away. She was barking also.
Maria, thank you for that 211 tip. I didn't even know about that 211 tip. And those are awesome things that, you know, you add to your arsenal of information to be able to share, which is great.
And we should all be sharing that on our social media individually and through the MBF. So we'd love to have that information for Jason to post.
We will have something posted very shortly. We'll have something posted very shortly about that, Jeff.
Excellent. Thank you. So I'd like to thank all of you, Maria, Sari, and Andres. Thank you for everything you've done and continue to do on behalf of our community. We truly appreciate your time, attention, and participation in this discussion. Some quick housekeeping notes before we sign off. First, I'd like to thank Donna Bloom and Ralph DiMartino for making this event possible. Second, we'd like to thank all of you that made your 2020 MBF dues payments. In light of the pandemic and its impact, we extended our early payment discount period for one additional month in March and April, and did not impose a deadline or late fee. Finally, in addition to those discussions and the benefits of distinguishing yourself as a master broker, we encourage you to follow us, MBF, on social media, and to take advantage of our master broker voices, master brokers listing programs. Good night, stay safe, and let's help these incredible organizations help our community. You guys are doing an incredible job, and definitely want to be involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank